All right, so, we've all been hearing these whispers about a possible recession here in the U.S., right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those topics that can feel kind of overwhelming to even think about.
Yeah.
But we're going to try to break it down today and hopefully walk away feeling a bit more like we know what's up.
Yeah.
You sent over this YouTube video,
Yeah.
and it's from Reventure Consulting,
Right.
and they analyze some economic indicators.
Yeah.
It is from 2025, so a little bit old.
Sure.
But the patterns that they're highlighting, I think, are still really relevant today.
Absolutely. Economic cycles tend to repeat themselves.
Right.
In many ways. So understanding what was happening back then can give us valuable insights.
Exactly.
And potentially what might be happening now or in the future.
Yeah, and that's kind of the mission of this deep dive, is
Yeah.
like, can we get a handle on, is a recession truly looming?
Right.
And if so, what does that actually mean for, everyday people like us?
Yeah.
So let's jump right in.
Okay.
The video kicks off with some pretty alarming signs
Yep.
from companies like, we all know these companies.
Yeah.
Delta United Airlines, Dollar General Target,
Big names.
huge names, and they're issuing warnings
Right.
and cutting forecasts,
Yeah.
which always makes me kind of nervous.
Yeah. I mean, think of these companies like canaries in a coal mine.
Yeah.
They're often the first to really feel the effects of an economic downturn
Right.
because they're so closely tied to consumer spending.
Right.
So when people start to, tighten their belts a little bit,
Yeah.
these are the companies that see it immediately in their sales figures.
It makes sense. And it's not just these companies, right?
Right?
The video also mentions that the job market is shrinking, with job openings down almost 40%
Huge.
in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And then, on top of that, we're seeing more and more people filing for unemployment.
Right.
Are those two stats connected?
Definitely. They paint a picture of a job market that's cooling down.
Right.
It's becoming harder to find new jobs. And that could be a sign that businesses are starting to get more cautious about hiring.
Okay, so then that brings us to, so what are some of the factors
Right.
contributing to this potential, economic slowdown?
Yeah.
The video dives into the impact of the Trump administration's policies,
Okay.
particularly around government spending and immigration.
Okay.
What's the takeaway there?
Well, regardless of your political stance,
Right.
the shift in government spending under any administration has consequences.
Yeah.
And what this video is arguing is that the Trump administration's policies contributed to both job losses and certain industries actually benefiting, like we
Yeah.
see with, some of these defense contractors and stuff.
Right.
So, for example, over 200,000 federal workers were laid off,
Oh.
along with numerous contractors, which obviously that impacts the job market.
Yeah.
But at the same time, United Airlines specifically called out the 50% decline
Oh, wow.
in government travel as a reason for their, slashed forecast.
Interesting.
So it's not a simple black and white situation. It's
Yeah.
about understanding the ripple effects
Right.
across different sectors.
Totally. Okay, so government spending cuts have a direct impact
Yeah.
on businesses and jobs.
Mhm.
What about the immigration piece?
Okay.
The video mentions this sharp decline in immigration at the southern border,
Right.
something like a 94% reduction.
Wow.
How does that play into the economic picture?
Well, that's a big question that economists are still debating.
Okay.
But reduced immigration can impact the labor force and consumer demand,
Okay.
particularly in areas like the rental market.
Oh.
Fewer people coming in means fewer people renting apartments,
Right.
which can affect, landlords and the overall housing market.
And speaking of the housing market,
Right.
the video doesn't paint a very rosy picture there either.
Right.
Pending home sales are down, hitting record lows.
Wow.
And it seems like, potential buyers are just hesitant to jump in.
Yeah, they're sitting on the sidelines.
They even did a poll in the video where 92% of viewers said they wouldn't buy a house
Wow.
until prices or interest rates dropped significantly.
It's a huge chunk of people.
It's a huge chunk of people. So.
Yeah, and this hesitation in the housing market actually ties back to what we were just talking about.
Okay.
With job security.
Mm-hmm.
If people aren't confident about their income or they're worried about the economy in general,
Yeah.
they're less likely to make big purchases. Like a house, it's a classic sign of a slowing economy.
Right.
People become more risk averse
Yeah.
and they kind of wait for more certainty
Right.
before making, big financial commitments.
It all feels very interconnected, like a domino effect.
Yeah.
So the video then goes on to dive into some even scarier stuff.
Okay.
Like concerning economic fundamentals.
Right.
Like debt savings and overvaluation.
Mm-hmm.
What's the story there?
This is where we start to see the possibility of a bubble forming.
Okay.
And potentially burst.
Uh-oh.
So the video highlights that the American personal savings rate is a measly 3.8%. Which is barely enough to cover a, surprise latte addiction these days.
Right.
But seriously, though.
Yeah.
This means that, a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
And they have very little cushion to absorb any economic shocks.
Right.
If things start to get a little rocky.
Okay, so that doesn't sound good. And they also mention declining retail sales.
Right.
Even after adjusting for like seasonal trends and stuff.
Yep. And that's another red flag.
Right, because that suggests that consumers are pulling back on spending.
Yeah.
Which can further slow down the economy.
Exactly. It's a vicious cycle.
Okay, so we've got low savings,
right,
declining sales,
mm-hmm.
shaky job market.
Yeah.
What else is contributing to this potential, economic bubble?
Well, the video points to overvaluation in both the stock market and the housing market.
Okay.
Both are at historically high levels. Compared to the overall size of the economy, which has some experts' word, they even bring up this thing called the buffet indicator, which basically compares the total value of the stock market to the total value of the U.S. economy. Kind of like a giant scale.
Gotcha.
And if the scale tips too far toward the stock market, it suggests that things might be out of whack.
Okay.
Like prices are inflated.
Right.
And a correction could be coming.
Okay, so the buffet indicator, that's a new one for me. Explain it like I'm 5.
Okay.
Because this whole market overvaluation thing has me a little freaked out.
Okay, so imagine you have a lemonade stand that's worth $10. But you're telling everyone it's worth $100.
Okay.
That's overvaluation.
Right.
It might work for a while,
yeah,
but eventually people are going to realize that your lemonade stand isn't actually worth that much.
Right.
And the price is going to come crashing down. So the buffet indicator is basically saying that something similar might be happening in the stock market right now.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
So are we headed for a crash?
Well, the video doesn't give a definitive answer.
Right.
But it does mention this idea of an economic detox period.
Okay. What exactly does that mean?
It's the idea that the economy has become reliant on things like government spending and artificial stimulus.
Right.
And at some point, we need to wean ourselves off of that.
Okay.
Think of it like eating a lot of junk food.
Yeah.
It might feel good in the moment, but eventually your body needs a detox to get back to a healthy state.
Yeah.
So the detox argument suggests that a correction or readjustment is inevitable to get the economy back on a sustainable path.
I get the detox argument, but it sounds a little bit like wishful thinking to me. Plenty of economists say that the Fed can just keep printing money to avoid a crash.
Right.
How does this video address that counterpoint?
That's a valid point. And it's a strategy that has been used in the past.
Right.
However, the video argues that, this kind of short-term fix can only delay the inevitable.
Okay.
And could even make the eventual correction worse.
Right.
It also talks about this idea of cognitive dissonance.
Okay.
The idea that people, even experts, sometimes have trouble accepting information that contradicts their existing beliefs.
Okay.
And this can lead to a delayed reaction to warning signs, making the eventual detox period even more painful.
So where does all of this leave us?
Well, the video mentions that the odds of a recession in 2025 were at 43%, at least according to betting markets.
Right. So that's something we should be taking seriously?
It's definitely a number worth paying attention to.
Okay.
But it's important to remember that these are just odds, not guarantees.
Right.
The video also points out that the FedWatch tool, which predicts the Federal Reserve's actions, was forecasting a resumption of rate cuts in June of 2025.
Interesting.
So this suggests that even the Fed might not have been entirely confident in the economy's strength at the time.
Okay, so we've uncovered some potential red flags.
Sure have.
But it's not a guaranteed crash just yet. There's still a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And the Fed's actions will play a major role in how things unfold.
For sure.
This is a lot to digest.
Yeah.
But I'm already feeling more informed thanks to your insights.
Of course, that's what we're here for. And it's important to remember that even amidst all this uncertainty, there are steps that we can take to prepare and navigate whatever comes next.
And that's what we'll focus on in the next part of our conversation.
Exactly.
Just stay tuned.
We'll be right back. Exactly. And that's what we'll focus on. Now, what can you actually do with this information?
Right.
Because let's be honest, hearing about a potential recession and all these economic indicators can be pretty stressful. And it's easy to feel powerless, like you're just along for the ride.
Totally. So how do we go from feeling overwhelmed to feeling empowered? How can we connect these big picture economic trends to our own personal finances and make, smart decisions?
Well, the first step is kind of shifting our mindset.
Okay.
Instead of viewing this information as a source of anxiety, let's see it as a call to action.
Okay.
A chance to kind of get our financial houses in order and build resilience.
Yeah.
Because even if a full-blown recession doesn't hit, being prepared for economic ups and downs is never a bad thing.
Totally. Okay. I like the turning anxiety into action.
Yeah.
So what are some concrete steps we can take to prepare for financial turbulence?
Well, the video touched on, the low personal savings rate,
Yeah.
which is a major vulnerability for a lot of people.
Right.
So if you're one of the many, living paycheck to paycheck, now is the time to start building that emergency fund.
Okay, that's always good advice, recession or not. But, how much should we aim for in our emergency fund, especially with inflation being a concern?
Right. Well, the classic advice is to have 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved up.
Okay.
But honestly, any amount you can stash away is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Start small if you have to. Even $50 a week adds up over time.
Yeah.
And as you build that cushion, you'll feel a sense of security.
Right.
That's priceless.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the economy throws your way.
That makes me think of that old saying, a penny saved is a penny earned.
Exactly.
But seriously, though, knowing you have that safety net can make a huge difference mentally when it comes to dealing with financial stress.
Absolutely.
What else can we do besides, shoring up our savings?
Well, diversifying your income is another powerful strategy the video mentioned.
Right.
If you're relying on a single job for 100% of your income, you're more vulnerable to economic shocks. So think about exploring side hustles, freelancing, even investing in passive income streams, anything that can create multiple streams of revenue.
Yeah. The more eggs in the basket, the less likely you are to lose everything if one cracks.
Exactly.
I've been thinking about ways to diversify myself, maybe dipping my toes into the freelance world. Any tips for someone starting from scratch?
Well, it depends on your skills and interests, of course.
Sure.
But platforms like Upwork and Fiverr can be great starting points for finding freelance gigs.
Okay.
And don't underestimate the power of networking.
Right.
Let your friends and family know that you're open to opportunities.
Okay.
You never know where that next gig might come from.
That's a great point. It's all about tapping into your existing network and just putting yourself out there.
Exactly.
But diversifying income isn't just about side hustles, right?
Right.
Investing is another piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. Investing can be a powerful tool for building long-term wealth.
Okay.
But it's essential to approach it with a clear understanding of your risk tolerance and financial goals.
Right.
The video didn't delve into specific investment strategies.
Sure.
And it's definitely something that you want to research carefully.
Right.
But broadly speaking, diversification is key here as well.
Right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Exactly.
And this ties back to what we were discussing earlier about the stock market potentially being overvalued. Does that mean we should hold off on investing altogether?
Not necessarily. Market fluctuations are normal.
Right.
And even if a correction happens, it doesn't mean that the entire market is going to collapse.
Okay.
Remember, the goal of investing is long-term growth, not short-term gains.
Right.
So if you're investing for retirement, for example, a market dip might actually be a good opportunity to buy stocks at a lower price.
Interesting.
The key is to have a solid investment strategy
Okay.
that aligns with your goals and risk tolerance. And to stay informed about what's happening in the markets without getting swept up in the hype or panic.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about saving, diversifying income, and investing. But debt is a huge part of the financial picture for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
What's the best approach to managing debt, especially if we're heading into a potential recession?
This is where things can get really personal.
Okay.
Because everyone's debt situation is unique.
Right.
But the general principle is to prioritize paying down high-interest debt first, like credit cards, because that's the debt that's costing you the most money.
Makes sense.
Creating a budget and tracking your spending can help you identify areas where you can cut back and free up more cash to put towards that debt repayment.
Budgeting isn't always the most exciting topic.
No.
But it's definitely crucial, especially during times of economic uncertainty.
For sure.
And there's so many great apps and tools out there now to help people track their spending.
Oh, yeah, tons.
And stay on top of their finances. Do you have any favorites that you recommend?
I'm not going to endorse any specific products, sure, but I will say that finding a budgeting method that works for you, whether it's an app, a spreadsheet, or a good old-fashioned pen and paper, is crucial.
Yeah.
The key is to be consistent and honest with yourself about where your money is going.
It's all about taking control, right? Not letting our finances control us.
For sure.
This is really resonating with me, this whole, building a financial fortress that can withstand whatever storms come our way.
I love that.
But amidst all this talk of potential doom and gloom, is there anything in this video that gives you a glimmer of hope?
You know what gives me hope is the resilience of the human spirit. And our ability to adapt and innovate. Recessions, while challenging, can also be periods of great creativity and entrepreneurship.
Interesting.
People find new ways to solve problems, create businesses, support each other. It's not about ignoring the potential risks, but it's about recognizing that even in difficult times, there are opportunities for growth and positive change.
I love that, focusing on the opportunities that can emerge from challenging times. This conversation has been incredibly eye-opening and honestly more empowering than I expected.
I'm glad to hear that.
We've uncovered some potential red flags.
Yeah.
But we've also explored some very practical steps we can take to navigate whatever lies ahead.
Absolutely. And remember, this is just the beginning of your financial journey. There's so much more to learn and explore. And knowledge is your greatest asset.
So true. Before we wrap up this part of our conversation, I want to touch on one final point that the video brought up. The concept of cognitive dissonance, preventing people from acknowledging potential problems. How do we avoid falling into that trap ourselves?
That's a great question. I think the key is to stay curious, open-minded, and willing to challenge our own assumptions. It's easy to get caught up in our own echo chambers and surround ourselves with information that confirms what we already believe. But true financial literacy requires us to actively seek out diverse perspectives, question the status quo, and be willing to adjust our course as needed.
So it's all about staying informed, being adaptable, and being open to new information, even if it challenges our comfort zones.
Absolutely. Remember, the economic landscape is constantly changing. And the more flexible and adaptable we are, the better equipped we'll be to navigate whatever comes our way.
That's a great note to end on in the next part of our conversation.
Okay.
We'll wrap things up by reflecting on some key takeaways from the video.
Sounds good.
And explore some additional resources that can help you continue your financial journey.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. From, alarming economic indicators to practical steps for building financial resilience.
For sure.
Before we wrap things up, I'd love to hear what stood out to you most from the Reventure Consulting video.
Okay.
Was there a particular, aha moment that shifted your perspective?
You know what really struck me was the emphasis on the interconnectedness of everything.
Okay.
It's not just about individual choices or even single policies. It's about understanding how those choices and policies interact and create ripple effects across the entire economic system.
Yeah, it's like that butterfly effect thing.
Exactly.
One small change can have massive consequences down the line.
Absolutely.
And that leads to a question I've been pondering. The video focuses primarily on the U.S. economy. But we live in a globalized world.
We do.
Where economies are so interconnected. How should we be thinking about those global forces and their potential impact on, our own financial well-being?
That's such an important question, and it's something we could spend hours unpacking. But I think the key takeaway is that we can't just focus on what's happening in our own backyard. We need to stay informed about global trends. Things like trade agreements, currency fluctuations, political events in other countries. Because those factors can absolutely have ripple effects on our investments, job markets, even the prices we pay for everyday goods.
It's a lot to keep track of.
It is.
But it sounds like expanding our scope beyond just domestic news is crucial.
Yeah.
For making, informed financial decisions.
Absolutely.
So besides staying informed about global events, are there any other resources or tools you'd recommend for someone who's wanting to continue their financial education journey?
Absolutely. There are so many great resources available both online and offline.
Sure.
Websites like Investopedia and Khan Academy offer fantastic educational content on a wide range of financial topics. Your local library likely has a wealth of books and resources as well.
Right.
And don't underestimate the value of connecting with financial advisors or mentors who can provide personalized guidance based on your specific circumstances and goals.
I love that you mentioned mentors.
Yeah.
Sometimes having that personal connection and guidance can make all the difference.
Absolutely.
In navigating these complex financial decisions.
For sure.
It's not just about crunching numbers.
Right.
It's about understanding your values, your goals, and what truly matters to you when it comes to money.
Exactly. Financial literacy isn't just about understanding technical concepts.
Right.
It's about empowering yourself to make choices that align with your values and create a life you feel good about.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
This video from Reventure Consulting, even though it's a few years old, has sparked a lot of important questions and insights. But remember, it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
The beauty of financial literacy is that it's a journey, not a destination.
Very true.
There's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to discover.
I couldn't agree more. Stay curious, keep asking questions, and never stop learning.
So true.
And remember, even though economic uncertainty can be daunting, knowledge is power. The more informed we are, the better equipped we are to navigate those inevitable ups and downs and create a future we feel confident about.
Beautifully said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
I hope you've walked away feeling more informed, more empowered, and maybe even a little bit more excited about taking control of your financial future. Until next time, those brains buzzing.